Oh, good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone joining today. Thank you very much for joining our look at what we see as the partner opportunities for Viva Engage customers. Before we get started, I'm going to just share a couple of pieces of news. The first is for those of you especially involved in consulting with clients around Viva Engage, we know that communications is the big message, is the big thing that Engage is used for these days. And we wanted to bring your attention to a brand new modern communications microsite where we share a whole bunch of resources to assist your clients, our customers, in driving especially AI business transformation. So we have resources and guides to help communicators connect with employees, support leaders, reach audiences, share knowledge, of course, and harness the power of Copilot and AI. So there's some great materials that you will be able to share with your clients on that site. Secondly, next week is a Microsoft 365 community conference. I'd love to everyone to just give a reaction if you're heading to that conference. A large contingent from the Viva Engage team are going to be there. So we hope you make time to go say hello, and in particular, follow and join some of the presentations or all of them of the executive and employee communications track. So there's some really great materials, great content, great presentations from the Viva Engage team and the Microsoft Communications team as well. But on to today. I'm joined by my colleagues, Raj, Aditi, Ethan, and we're going to be talking about what we see as those opportunities for partners over the next kind of 12 months. We're going to share what we have heard from customers, and we're going to join this together with a kind of overview of the masterclasses that we recently ran after putting together based on what we've heard from customers. After that section, excuse me, we're going to present some of the new opportunities that we see around new Teams integrations, around Copilot adoption, migrations, and multi-tenant and segmented Viva Engage networks. But to the beginning today, one of the things, we've spent, thank you very much, Darlene, for sharing that the masterclasses were great. Our team has spent so much time with customers over the past 2 years, especially with the rebrand of Viva Engage and all the new capabilities that came out. And we got so many questions, and some of these were things that we'd get over and over. And we wanted to come up with a way to both help customers get those answers, but also we know that partners is where Microsoft scale the support of our customers. And so we created the masterclasses both as a resource for customers, but also for partners as well, based on all the questions and all the kind of similar scenarios that we get asked when we're meeting with those customers. So everything from admin and governance through to community management, how to use Viva Engage for internal communications as well. How do you support training? How do you help customers adopt Viva Engage? And then 2 specific deep dives on live events and then analytics as well. So what were in these masterclasses? This is what I'm going to go through a bit for you today, just to give you some of the highlights and the key themes that we brought into the masterclasses based on all those customer conversations. I'd be surprised if any of these are a surprise to you all today, but we'd love to know if, as I go through these, is there anything that stands out that you hear a lot from your clients? Is there anything you think that we've missed? And then we could work together on expanding the content as well. But admin and governance, one thing that we found is a lot of customers don't know the very basics of Microsoft 365 in particular. So admin roles, especially when, for example, you're working with internal communicators who maybe aren't familiar and don't necessarily work with IT frequently to get their communications tools set up, whereas Engage is a fully integrated part of the whole Microsoft 365 suite. So things like admin roles, the global admin panel, dynamic groups, expiry policies, through to things like connecting with communications and compliance and purview, setting up all your compliance, audit, retention, e-discovery. These things just were very new to a lot of customers, especially those coming from a tool, for example, like Workplace, as Meta has shut down Workplace. And these things are new to, if you're new to Microsoft, you're new to these things. And we found that all these admin pieces were of huge interest and got a lot of questions, even down to which licenses do I need? The Microsoft license scenarios are not always the most clear. So hopefully you can help our customers and your clients make sense of the licenses, and then just how to really get started kind of back end with Microsoft 365, setting everything else ready to go with especially the admin roles and dynamic groups. And of course, for those of you who have been in the Yammer and now Viva Engage space for a long time, governance is something that is always an afterthought, or oftentimes an afterthought. So how do we think about content moderation? How do we think about those options around muting communities, muting users, restricting posting, even marking communities official? Those are the kind of things that, again, we've heard that we really want more help just kind of getting started with those. So it's a really comprehensive offer that you might be able to put together for your clients, for our customers, around all of these areas. And of course, in the advanced section here, things like integrations with Microsoft 365, Teams integrations, how our rich email notifications come into Outlook, SharePoint, web parts, Viva connections as well. A lot of these things are new. It's a different way of thinking if you're new to Microsoft as well. And we see that those are the kind of questions that we get oftentimes on calls. So things, I'm just bringing a few slides to show you some examples from the masterclasses. And I'll just ask one of my colleagues to put the link to the masterclasses where you'll have access to all these slides and the video recording as well. So what are these roles? Where do they sit? Do they sit in Entra? Do they sit in Engage? What is even a corporate communicator role? What does even a community admin have access to? All those things, great opportunity to lay them out along with things like dynamic groups. And of course, once you've got your Engage network set up, it's all about starting to use it. And for those of you who have been in this space for a really long time, we know that community management is a huge scenario that is oftentimes an afterthought. Again, especially if we're thinking about just communications now. What do we need to know? How do we help your clients, our customers, understand the importance of community management? Like, what is it? This can be a new concept to a lot of customers. What does a community manager do? How do they facilitate a network? And we had some great analogies of different ways of thinking about community management. Different types of communities, is it more of a top-down communications community? Is it a community of practice? Is it a social community? What are those different typologies you can have, and how can you help customers get the most from those? And then once you've got them all started, so even just planning them to get ready, how do you drive engagement? How do you start conversations? How do you seed conversations? Things as simple as weekly content plans or community campaigns are things that maybe aren't top of mind as customers get started with Viva Engage, or even for those who've used it for a long time, but really need a strong reinvigoration of their network. Different types of posts as well. Sometimes those are a surprise to users. So, polls and praises to recognize people, and of course, bringing leaders into those communities to demonstrate that it's okay. This is a tool that we're using, and I, as the leader, use it as well. And of course, along with the whole community piece, it's about building knowledge. We recently launched community experts. So how do you identify experts? What does it mean to be an expert within the context of your client? How do you assign experts? How do you use the best and verified answers options? And then how do you create a nice loop of questions being asked, answers coming in, which also brings with it the similar questions? So you're starting to automate some of that knowledge, and then look at the analytics to see the impact of it. And finally, to complete the loop, all those Q&As appearing in Microsoft 365 Copilot as knowledge sources as well. As I said earlier, the whole idea of what the suite of Microsoft products brings you and how they connect together, give you some great opportunities to expand the value that your clients will see from Viva Engage within the suite. So just as an example, the team who did the great community management masterclass had a great set of checklists and other content just to nudge people to help them think through what are those things we need to do. You know, even the first one there, welcome new community members. As someone who's been in this space for a really long time, I would forget that too. So if someone who has done this for 15 years would forget that, new customers, new clients of yours may also as well. But after community management, we knew that the next part is, whereas Engage used to generally sit in IT, it's really communications and internal communications, corporate communications, where Engage sort of sits these days. And what do communicators need to know? Well, part of that is just the whole shift in where modern internal communication is going. And we'll show a few of these a bit later. But where are they moving from sort of one-way top-down communication, from email, maybe just blogs, but moving instead to multi-channel engagement, social engagement? How can they use the capabilities in Viva Engage to help get in front of their employees in the most effective way in the tools that they currently work, which is Teams and Outlook, in order to get their attention. We're in an attention game. We have so many tools competing for our attention, both at work and in our personal lives. How can we make sure the best content gets in front of the right people, which will make leadership happy, because then you look at the data and you can actually prove the impact you're having. In particular around leaders as well. How do you build out your leadership corner? You know, customers ask us, well, what makes a leader? Who should we add to our leadership corner? Who needs an audience? Who should be running AMAs? What kind of campaigns should we be running? And we gave great examples of all of these. And if we think back to the kind of admin part at the beginning, even what we would class sometimes as more basic things, but how do you assign a delegate? What privileges does excuse me, does a delegate have as well? And then we know that customers love the new Viva Engage analytics. And even though we give some advice within those analytics, and we're using AI to bring people's attention to themes and to data and the impact of what they're showing, they need support in order to take more action on that data as well. So if you can help them with the data and decide what to do next, again, start to fill that nice kind of cycle of bringing, having impact and demonstrating it to their organization as well. So you may have seen this slide before, just showing you a few of the slides from this masterclass, is our perspective on the shift in where modern communications is going. And it's what we hear when we show this, where the move from one-way communication to multi-directional communication, from channel management, where you have these only go in email, these only go on the intranet, these only go someplace else, but you'll actually have different versions of content within multiple channels as well. We want to have multi-speed, so customers actually need help with understanding even the delay that Engage puts in between an email notification, sorry, Teams notification and an email notification. It's 2 hours for those of you who haven't come across this before. And of course, they need your help making great content, multimedia content, great videos, great even images, how to use in particular AI to help them with all of this as well. So to get away from that content that is in one corporate voice, how can they write the content so it fits with the tools that they're using and the channels through which they're sending it, especially with Copilot's help. and just some examples specifically for Engage as well. Whether it's community communications in groups, whether it's leader-driven communication, making use of articles, so long-form content as well, live events, another big piece of this, and campaigns. You have this really comprehensive solution to help customers drive this new way of communication and engagement, and then the data to back it all up as well. I'll just take one pause because I see the question in the chat. We will be recording this and we will put it on our adoption site as soon as possible. Now, so we've got our communicators on board. We've got our community structure set up. We've set up Engage. We have a governance plan. And now we need to get everyone else on to Engage. And we have a great adoption site full of a large amount of content. We know many of you as partners have content. Much of it is available publicly as well. And we thought, well, what's the best way to get this in front of people? Content that we already have, but how can we help people see and access this content? And one of the things that we found again is there's nothing too kind of simple that customers still want some advice on. So we sorted our training and adoption between kind of fundamentals at the beginning. Customers wanted to know how the home feed work. How do you even navigate Engage? If you've never seen it before and it appears on the screen in front of you, where do you click? Where do you scroll? What am I actually looking at? Following that, a lot of customers want to know how the notifications work. Why do users get them? In what scenarios? How can we make use of those notifications with announcements, both in communities and storyline? And if we're talking about those notifications, some of those come through emails along with our digests. How do we decide what is in those digests? And how does that happen? When do they come? Again, it seems quite, the Viva Engage 101 edition, but we found that as we helped customers get comfortable with these pieces, they were more willing to try out some of the other parts as well. Even what are the different types of posts that you can make in Viva Engage? Then, of course, in Beyond the Basics, we have the which tool when conversation, which as we show you later, we're addressing head on with new integrations in Teams. But also, how do you launch Viva Engage? What should you do? How many communities should you set up? How many campaigns? How many leaders? Which leaders? How do we build their audiences? We need dynamic groups to populate those communities to help set up those audiences. How can we create this great launch plan where everyone will be bought in and everyone will be engaging straight away, and also a champions network as well. And then there's some details on how do you moderate Viva Engage with all the great options Engage has, and in particular, how do you get, this is the eternal question, how do we get leaders using Engage? And I'll leave it to the video for you to take a look and the slides as we have a whole section on that. And one of the best things that we had in this as well is we brought in content that we sourced from you. So from our partners, it was great to be able to say, this isn't just what Microsoft recommends, this is what some of our partners also recommend. This is the advice that Reply give. This is the advice that Swoop or Silicon Reef give. And when we do, in our next iteration, as Alison wrote, we're working out how to do series 2 of our masterclasses, we'll be reaching out again. So if you have some great content that you think would fit well and you'd like featured in some of our masterclasses, please just reach out and send us a copy and we'll set up a meeting to have a chat with you. But thank you to the 5 partners that contributed to the training and adoption content. But now we've got everyone on. People are using Engage. How do we do live events? How do we use Ask Me Anythings? And we started out, we actually had, and if you watch the video, if you see the slides, we had John Cerrone, who is the head of Microsoft's leadership communications team, share how Microsoft uses Viva Engage and live events and AMAs. We've gone through a big transformation in how we do communications. For those of you going to the Microsoft 365 conference, you'll get to hear it in his own words, which is much more impactful than I can deliver. But how did we drive that change into a way that, we really have an Engage first communication system. And to hear him share all of that, again, I'd encourage you to watch the video. And then how do you actually run live events? So if any of you want to deep dive in how you use broadcasting software, connecting to Teams live through Teams, delivering into Engage, and where we're heading for the future as well, you will see that all within the video and the slides here. It's a great watch, an end-to-end video on how you actually run a live event and broadcast it into Engage. And just a few of the slides, what type of event should customers be thinking about? Where would they produce it and how would they deliver it as well? And one of the things that we find customers are always interested in is how we, as I said, how we use AMAs and live events. And we have a great blog from last year on that. Finally, from the masterclasses, analytics. It's one thing that Engage really lacked for many, many years in its prior life. And we're really excited. And for those of you who have been in this space for a really long time, we are, super happy to be able to get to look at the data this way. Self-serve data using AI, theming, sentiment, more than just kind of the more traditional vanity metrics of views and things like that. But if you go back and you watch this masterclass, or if you look at the slides, we actually explain how all of our data works. So conversation analytics, community analytics, network analytics, how do we calculate some of these things? Campaigns, audience analytics, how do we do the time save data for answers analytics? Our data team did a great job kind of explaining how all of these work. And then at the end of the presentation, you'll see some really nice stuff on how can you actually demonstrate the impact of not your Engage network, because we just give you a tool, or your clients a tool to go do something, but it's their work. So communications teams in particular tend to be relatively small, under-resourced, but expected to have an outsized impact, especially around change. How can we show you the data that you can put in front of your leadership in order to demonstrate your impact, which really, it makes communicators and those running Engage networks feel good that we've got their back to help them demonstrate that impact. And just a couple of an example slide here. This is just one of many. It's a really, really great deep dive, but even what counts as a view? If you look at a post and it comes across different surfaces, Teams, Engage, SharePoint Online, in a web part, and in Outlook, how many times does that view count when you're looking at your analytics? You can read really quickly. I'm not going to give the answer, but I recommend that you take a look at the masterclass video and the slides if you would like to see what the answer is. But I promised that as well as what we've been putting together, we have some new, what we think are the strong partner opportunities with Viva Engage. And my colleagues are going to join me, and we're going to walk you through some of these. Teams integrations, the Copilot Adoption Community, and then segmentation and multi-tenant Viva Engage, and the upcoming changes to external networks, and finally, our migration APIs as well. So first up, Teams integrations. You have probably seen, taking a step back, because I've mentioned it quite a few times going through the content from the masterclasses, but Engage is different to other communication tools in that we meet users where they are. We can meet them in Outlook, we can meet them in Teams, we can meet them in SharePoint, in Connections, and you get the same rich experience when you're looking at content in all of those. That's a huge a compelling selling point to customers, that we're not going to send you a Teams notification and then you have to click on it and it takes you out to another tool. You can just engage within Teams. Right now you can do this if you have the Engage app in Teams. But you've probably seen our announcements where we're bringing not just an app into Teams, but we're bringing components of Engage natively into Teams. The first example here is showing you storyline in Teams. So this is, the easiest way I think of it is I'm having a chat one-on-one with someone who I haven't worked with before. We're in a different country, we're even in a different office or two. We both work from home and we haven't worked together before. I can go to the top of that chat, and if the customer has Storyline enabled and using it, I can click on Storyline, and I can actually see their storyline from within the Teams chat. And what's awesome about this is I can use that to learn more about the people that I'm working with. I don't have to go to Engage. This is all native in Teams. And I can start to see if they're posting on their storyline. I can see what they're working on if they've shared it, something personal, photo from a vacation, anything. And just by having that little bit of information, I'm going to have that little bit more trust in working with that person just because I know a bit more about them. And so we see a big opportunity right now as this is available in helping customers turn on Storyline and start to use Storyline, especially using the Teams as the first surface of that. So this is generally available now. And then coming soon, as making a bit of a joke about the which tool when situation, is the whole reworking of teams with the modern collaboration experience on the left-hand side means that we are building communities natively into teams. So you'll see on the left-hand side, we have our chat, we have teams and channels and communities. And my favorites, I can pick any of those to go at the top. And the experience is going to be much more Teams-like. So the publisher is going to look similar. There's a lot more purple, less engaged blue. And for some users, not for everyone, of course, because we're always going to have this powerful, long-built Viva Engage web app, the mobile apps as well. But if I'm just a more casual user and I want to be a member of a few communities where whether it's a leadership community or a community of practice or something like that, or one maybe where I'm an expert helping others, I will be able to access those communities directly within Teams. And this is not requiring any additional app installed or pinned in Teams. This is coming natively, and this is coming soon. And now I'm going to quickly hand over to my colleague Ethan, who is going to walk through our very recent Frontline Worker mobile experience as well.
Perfect. Thank you, James. So the new Engage app in Teams. The new Engage app in Teams just rolled out for everybody probably at the beginning of April. And we've taken kind of the best investments the mobile team has been working on as we built the previous slides that you saw, the communities and teams that's coming soon, the storyline in Teams that's already available or rolling out. And we kind of honed back in, hey, the existing Engage app in Teams. We brought all the best components of all of that, kind of brought it right in so you can get a new refreshed experience in mobile that is designed mobile first from mobile ground up with native code. And it's a generational experience difference compared to the old web view based experience we had in the Teams mobile apps. And it's got the best parts and the most important parts of Engage to allow your users to start from a mobile only perspective, a mobile first perspective. We have your home feed like we always did. It brings content from across your communities. It brings your storyline posts as well from across the organization, and it still allows your corporate communicators to feature conversations. As well, of course, you have your communities list where you can just kind of favorite and join and discover different communities across the organization. And of course, the home of all these communities, the community feed, and you can ask questions, mark questions as best answers, create posts and praises as well. All of that stuff that you were familiar with in the standalone Engage mobile app is also available in the Viva Engage app in Teams. And for premium, or for the comms bundles, we also have Leadership Corner available, which allows you to bring the best parts of the organization, the most important people, the CEO, the chiefs of staff, the leadership, to kind of bring everyone together to see all their updates, see all your managers all in one page, and kind of bring the corporate voice to you. And lastly, like we said, James said earlier, we're all about connecting people where they are. So the notification system is integrated directly with Teams, as it always has, and it still works today, where you get a push notification at the beginning of the day or whenever it's timely
Ethan,
to bring people into a
sorry,
conversation.
Were you sharing the slides or were you moving forward the slides? They just weren't, I'm not
Oh,
sure they were for
there we go.
everyone.
I don't think I actually. Oh, that would make sense. There we go. I completely forgot to take control. Is it loading? If not, Steve, if not, James, you can also kind of take control for me as well. No, it's here. We talked about home feed, and we got communities, and the community feed, first leadership, and lastly, notifications. And I think we had a few questions here. Nope, this is actually the Viva Engage app in Teams today. If you already have it installed or pinned through your organization, if you open Teams today, as long as you have it updated from the app stores, you should be seeing this new experience today. So this is available right now as we continue to invest inside the communities and Teams experience that James showed you earlier. And I think Darlene asked if there's a top tab for filtering for communities. I'm not sure if that was actually for communities and teams or this, but we find that most people don't have that many communities that they require toggles and filters. But of course, there's still favorites that kind of span across the Engage platform. So anything you've favorited on Engage Web or on the Engage mobile app, we will still support showing those favorites directly within the Engage app in Teams.
Awesome. Thank you, Ethan. And,
Yep.
to all the partners here, there's a great opportunity, and particularly if you have frontline worker scenarios with your clients, or if you're in discussions with potential clients about frontline workers, really bringing a much more powerful Engage experience into Teams. Okay, take back control. So what other opportunities do we see for partners? The next one is, we know that probably all of you are involved in helping customers adopt Microsoft Copilot in its various guises. And as a result of this, about a year ago, we built out an actual Copilot adoption community. I see a few old hands for Engage in the chat today and in our attendee list. So I'm guessing you're already doing this already. But Engage is a great tool for bringing people together to talk about change. And Copilot is a big, big change. So we have created a one-click create community that actually gives a whole checklist to walk through to set up that community. So, and it already comes with a banner image and a thumbnail, and it will automatically recommend users who have Microsoft 365 Copilot licenses. And then the coolest thing as well is it has a whole bunch of suggested content pre-populated that comes from Microsoft's own Copilot adoption site, and includes the monthly Copilot update email and blog that our Copilot team have. In addition to that, it also gives you access, even if you don't have the Viva CNC or Suite licenses that you would normally need to have some of the extra features within Viva Engage. It brings similar questions, the intelligent importer, and a few other pieces into the just Microsoft 365 license, your E3s, your E5s experience as well. So if you have a client who's wondering whether to upgrade to Viva CNC or a Viva Suite, you can actually encourage them to turn on the Copilot adoption community, and they can try some of those resources themselves. And of course, after that point, they can actually come to us and trial all the premium capabilities for the entire tenant as well. The coolest thing about this community is we see there's about a 22% increase in Copilot usage that correlates to those customers who use the Copilot adoption community. So this is a real low-hanging fruit as a partner to go and encourage your customers, your clients to turn this on, and then help them through use this to drive that Copilot adoption, which will help increase MAU, which then looks good for all the Microsoft partner checklists and hoops that you have to jump through in order to demonstrate your impact on Copilot sales and adoption as well. Next piece, as Meta from Workplace announced it was closing down almost a year ago, just by a few days, we knew that there were a lot of customers that would want to come over to Engage and bring their content with them. Being honest, our old APIs we're in need of some upgrades, and for the specific purpose of migrating customers, we have created a new set of APIs or import APIs on MS Graph to facilitate those migrations. And they're much more feature rich than the old APIs. Now, this is something that we're not making available to customers directly. The APIs are shared privately with partners. They'll be publicly available towards the end of the year, but only after all the customers who are migrating content from Workplace have gone through their migrations. If you have a customer who would like to migrate from Workplace or other tools to Engage, if you click the link on the slide to get started now, you will be able to submit a form, and we'll be in touch, and we can get you set up with those APIs for testing. But we really see this as a strong opportunity for partners. We have a limited number who are doing the migrations. It seems to be a big opportunity right now as well. So again, we'll put the link in the chat for this getting started, but would encourage you, if you're interested, to fill out the form, and we'll be in touch. But now I'm going to pass over to my colleague Raj to talk about what I think is some of the biggest opportunities for partners coming up over the next sort of 3 to 6 months.
Hey, good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Can you all hear me okay? Awesome. Okay. I'm going to take control to forward the slides. Okay, perfect. So folks, I'm really excited to basically talk to you about some of the things that some of you have already been involved in. Really, this is an opportunity for us to say, Viva Engage is essentially ready now to cater to any kind of a network topologies that we have. Whether it's multi-tenant, I think you all are familiar with that, where organizations continue to acquire and keep them separate. But we also have the opportunity where we see customers who continue to do acquisitions, so they have practices globally, but they're all part of a single Microsoft tenant. And so Viva Engage essentially is delivering on quite a few aspects of things. So first things first, I think hot off the presses, this is something that we are sharing with you, and this is something that we will soon be announcing at the M365 conference as well. Like, we are basically going to deliver segmentation. So think of an experience. I see that some of our partners are already here who are involved with this, but think of a scenario where a large organization has global presence, and each of the global entities would like to have an Engage experience of their own, and they don't want to have the overhead of having to break those tenants into smaller tenants. In the past, we did not have the capability of what we call as multi-instance or compartmentalization, but now coming soon to Engage, we're essentially going to be delivering the value where organizations can take their network and create segments. They'll be driven by M365 dynamic groups to define the segments. And once you enforce, you actually will have the ability for organizations to basically have each of those departments have their own experience. So I'll actually show you some UX concept at a very high level. So imagine you have Contoso, which actually has two presences. One is called Contoso, the other one is Contoso Americas. Engage will look and feel the same, but the content will be very much tailored or very much be applicable to what we call as very tailored to the segment, in the sense like you only get to see content and communities as well as people when you're searching. Pretty much that is how you would actually see those experiences. There are a few questions in the chat. I think the first question that was brought up was about information barriers. So let me address that. Information barriers is a Microsoft Purview / E5 offering. The solution that we are offering is essentially going to be Engage only. In the future, we do want to align where if a customer has already set up information barriers or they've already set up those segments for IB, how we can leverage those to basically define the segments in Engage. So this is something in our roadmap, but the initial offering is going to be Engage specific only. There was another conversation about featured conversations. So when we think about segmentation, we think about segmentation as the ability to have a completely standalone Engage experience for your segment, and you can feature such that the conversation is only applicable to that segment. So or the communities are only applicable for the members of that segment. So that way you can completely keep them separate and still have the ability for the users to have the full power of Engage. So you could imagine that there are communities that are living side by side and the two worlds don't know about each other, but because you can't discover them, you can't really join them, and that is how it is essentially going to be delivered. Now, we also see the need for sometimes where a large corporation has, even though they have segments, they do have the ability to basically say, hey, I do have certain parts of my business, which is essentially, yeah, I think there's the question that is kind of seeding me what we are going is how do we support what we call as breakthrough? We're calling it breakthrough, where you can actually have people from the C-suite, for example, or you have a shared HR department or a shared marketing department or a shared accounting department. Those people can belong to a segment which will actually have the ability to connect with other segments, and their conversations, their communities will be accessible and can be joined by users from other segments. So we're calling it breakthrough. So in this case, you're seeing that Alan has made a post, and Alan's post is essentially visible to not only Contoso, but also to Contoso America. But only these kind of people who have part of this segment that are allowed to basically talk to each other can essentially be able to speak to each other. So one may ask is to say, hey, what are the common cases where I can see this happening? So a few things that we have seen, a few customer profiles that we have seen are businesses that actually are in solution providers, for example. Like think of it as the customers like the HCLs, or think of them as the other businesses who are basically in the consulting business, who pretty much work with various customers and they want to actually have each of the practices segmented so that they can keep the content very much contained per that segment. That is one example. The other example that we also see is in some financial institutions where financial institutions want to have their accounting team or their audit team not be able to have any conversations with the marketing team, for example. This is an example where we can actually deliver segmentation as well. And finally, there are these places where you actually see that, for whatever policy reason, if some content needs to be restricted only to a given geo, you can also think of it as segments based on geos. Again, how you define the segments is purely based on dynamic groups, which are M365. You can use any property such as department, geolocation, custom properties, whatever it is. You all are familiar with how dynamic groups work. So you can create them and you can actually map them to the engaged segments. Are there any questions on segmentation before we move on from this topic? There's a question, can a person be a member of multiple segments? No, a user will only be able to be part of one segment. However, the segment can have the ability to connect with other segments. So let me actually use an example. We have Allison, Ethan, James, and myself on the call. So you could imagine that James and Allison are part of our shared customer experience team. they can actually go ahead and have their reach available to segments for Teams integration, which Ethan is part of, or Team Network, which I am part of. However, I don't have the ability to connect with Ethan because my segment does not know how to discover or talk to the Teams integration team. So you can see that we are basically doing it at a segment level rather than having users be mapped to multiple segments. That was one question. I'm just trying to see if there was any others. Okay, I think that's where the set of two questions that we had. So really, I would say that, this is going to start rolling out very soon. We would love for our partners to basically identify these opportunities. Please feel free to reach out to James, Allison, or myself, and we would love to talk to your customers, share with them what we have, and would love to onboard them, because this is a great opportunity for us to basically bring on board new set of users to Engage who probably were not too excited to come to Engage because they felt it was too open. But now with segmentation, they can have their own world where they can live and take advantage of all the things that Engage has to offer, while still be able to take advantage of the fact that their information is contained within that segment. All right, I'll move ourselves along. I think we are getting close to time. So the other thing that I think I wanted to quickly talk about is one quick thing. I'll just mention this. One of the things that we take pride is how we do analytics. So one of the things in our roadmap is the ability for us to be able to slice the analytics based on segments. So you can see on the screenshot that we have that we'll have the ability for customers or our corp comms to basically have the ability to reach into other segments and see. But again, to be precise, these people who can access these other segments have to be in a common segment, because that way they are pretty much respecting the boundaries as well. So in other words, what I'm saying is we will have the ability to have corp comms and admins also belong to certain segments, and depending on their segment, they will have reach to content based on their segment assignment. Okay, we'll try and move a little bit faster. I think all of you by now are familiar with our multi-tenant offering. We've been going strong at it. We have quite a few customers. In fact, in the last 3 months, thanks to all of you and all your hard work, we have actually been starting to onboard a bunch of our customers onto Viva Engage MTO. And we really stand out in our experience in the sense that we provide a seamless way for tenants to participate. So I'm actually going to show you a quick demo. So there's a lot of content which I'm sure that James will share out. But the most important thing that is always top of mind that a lot of our customers ask is, hey, I wish I had the ability for my communities that I have in one of my tenants be able to be accessible from Engage from another tenant. How do I do that? So we actually am excited to say that we already have MTO communities in preview. And actually, that's going to be a demo that I'm actually going to present right now. And essentially, that will allow you to see that how users from across another tenant can access a community, participate in that community as if they are members of that particular community without having to do a network switch. And they will have the ability to get announcements and notifications as well. So I'm going to just switch gears a little bit, and I'm going to start sharing my screen. I'm going to show my full screen because that's the only way I can do it. Give me 1 second. So I have these set up of 2 browsers. They are set up with 2 different profiles. So this is what we call as the hub, which is the Contoso corporate. And I have Roberto signed in over here, who's part of what we call as the Fabricam. And I'll show you how it is. So imagine that Roberto is part of the Spoke network. He wants to basically access a community like New Era. He's already a member of it. And when I hover over it, you can see that anybody in corporate, Fabricams, and securities can participate. This community was enabled as MTO on the hub side. So I'll switch quickly over and show you this community over here in New Era. So this is hosted in corporate, and it essentially has been marked as visible to everyone. You can toggle it back to make it
Hey,
visible
Brad,
only to corporate. Yes.
because you're I don't know what's happening. It's not sharing your screen.
It is not?
No.
Okay.
I can.
All right.
It came
Let me
across
try
as
again.
yeah.
Because it was showing me the red border right now. So I wonder if it is something that I actually have to do. How about now? Can you all see my screen? I'm trying to share it again.
I see it as a participant for this
Okay.
webinar. I don't
Okay.
know, but I cannot change it.
Okay. I wonder if it is because of the fact that you actually have to give ability to share content. If the live event might, oh, okay.
If not, do you just want to run just through a few slides, as we
Yeah,
only
let
have
me just run through
5
a few
minutes
slides
anyway,
if
and we
you
could
want.
always record it separately and put it up.
Yeah, you were sharing the deck if you don't want.
Yeah, I'll bring it up again. Just give the highlights and the external network too.
Yeah, I'll just quickly sync to presenter. Okay. Take control. Yeah. So I'll quickly highlight to you the MTU communities that I was actually talking about. So MTU communities is essentially the experience where, as I was sharing, that you actually have the ability for these communities to be marked as visible to all organizations. And once you have it, users in the spoke tenants can discover and join, or you can actually add them directly rather than sending them an invite. Today, the only way we actually support other users from other networks to be added is through the guest flow. But with MTO enablement, you actually can add them directly to the community. And also users from the other tenant can discover and request to join. And that way they become members of the community and they'll basically have the ability to post comments, etc. One of the things that we're going to bring very quickly is the ability for us to have spoke users be promoted to be admins so that they can also make announcements in the community. That is something that we have heard from several of our customers, that we would like to have the ability for some of our leaders from our spoke tenants to be able to make announcements, because today we only allow admins to make announcements in a community. The other thing that we are actually going to be GAing very quickly, that is the time frame that we are working towards, is the ability to make sure that we can actually have announcement notifications show up in Outlook. And that is the last piece before we actually announce GA for MTO communities. Any questions on MTO communities? I know we are running short on time. Just quickly, if live end, okay. All right. Finally, I think the part that I quickly wanted to discuss was about external networks. So folks, as you all know, Yammer has had this notion of external networks. I think we all have heard it loud and clear from you as well as from several of our customers that our experience is pretty stale. It really pales in front of the beautiful, glamorous, and what we call as the modern UI. And also the other part is like, it does not really align with the M365 or the Microsoft Entra constructs for security and all the management piece. So we're excited to basically say that we're in the process of just about to roll out modern external networks. It essentially is getting a major facelift in the sense that it will look exactly like Viva Engage, and you will essentially have the ability to migrate your legacy networks to these new networks. We are on a tight schedule in the sense that we have to actually start to support our customers to migrate to the modern external networks in the next couple of months. And we are here to help you and our customers. But one of the things that they will really benefit is like they will get to see and take advantage of all the new experiences and the capabilities that Engage has to offer in communities. So one of the things that we will start with is communities. And then in the future, we have on our plans to support events and campaigns, as well as knowledge in these external networks, the modern external networks. That'll be further down the line. But when we actually launch modern external networks, we will have parity with the current external network feature set, which is communities and inviting people to those communities. I know it was a whirlwind for a lot of things that I covered. I'm happy to take questions again offline as well, but I'll wrap this up and turn it back to you, James.
Awesome. Thank you, Raj. Yeah, so much good stuff that we see our customers interested in. We have partners already working on MTO with customers, as Raj said, and will be many more coming as well. So if you have any clients who have multiple tenants or are interested in segmenting their tenant, those opportunities are going to be available to you, some now and some very soon. And if you want more information, please feel free to reach out. But that comes to the end of our webinar today. Just want to draw your attention, for those of you who are not yet a Microsoft partner, you probably should go take a look at the Viva Employee Experience Partner page, which is full of information as to how you get signed up as a partner. Once you're a partner, then you get invited not just to public webinars like these, but we have a partner network. There's a huge amount of content, resources, webinars, meetings, meetups, all kinds of things. So if you're not yet a Microsoft partner, I encourage you to take a look at that. But just lastly, I want to say thank you to you all. Thank you for being Microsoft partners. Thank you for being Engage partners as well. We know that we cannot scale our impact to customers without your help. And that's really where the closest of relationship and the happiest customers come from, is when they're working with great